Hey everyone, my name is Alex, and on behalf of Copper State Credit Union, thank you for joining us tonight. So happy to have you all. I have a few items to review before we get started. Our session today is scheduled to last about 45 minutes. The recording of today's event will be sent out to you via email and will also be located on our website. Please take a moment to find your Zoom toolbar, likely located at the bottom of your screen. We want you to be able to participate as much as possible during our session today, so we want everyone to be aware of the features available. Q&A. Please type your questions for the speaker here at any time throughout the session. You can click the anonymous button if you don't want your name to be attached to the question. If we send you any links during the session, you'll find these in chat. Lastly, I want to point out the polling feature. You should see a poll popping up here momentarily. Please respond so we know a little bit more about our audience tonight. Thank you. Now, I'm excited to introduce our speaker, Christina Credit. Christina is Copper State Credit Union's Financial Wellness Program Manager. She's been with the credit union for 4 years and loves her current position. Christina has lived in the Valley for 9 years since moving from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She loves listening to audiobooks and enjoys camping with friends and family, as well as working in her garden. Financial fun fact about Christina: she uses the cash envelope system for managing her family's budget. Christina, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Alex. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining me here tonight. I am coming to you from Copper State Credit Union's Member Financial Education Center. I am alone here for tonight, but eventually, hopefully, we'll have some more people joining me here. For those of you who are new, before we jump in, I want to make sure that you know Copper State Credit Union. We are a local Arizona credit union. We were created and built from the merger of two equally sized and equally thriving credit unions, Deer Valley Credit Union and Canyon State Credit Union. That happened back in 2019. And in 2020, Southwest Healthcare Credit Union joined us, and we created our new name and brand, Copper State Credit Union. Our membership has a ton of benefits, and it's open to most of Arizona residents. So any of the counties that you see up here on the screen, open to all of those counties if you live, work, or worship in any of those counties. We have 7 branch locations, also a branch at GCU, the college campus, in the Lope Shop. And right now we serve over 40,000 members. Over 40,000 people trust us to do their banking. And I really like to start off all of these webinars and presentations with our core values, because without going over this, it's hard to understand why I'm here tonight and why I enjoy talking to you all so much about your finances. And it's because of our core values as a credit union: believing in financial strength through financial empowerment, leading to financial prosperity. And those 4 core values you see up on the screen, those are what we really believe in. We have a focus on family. We want to empower you. And we also believe, you can tell as I go through my presentation, I'm very excited about what I talk about, but we believe that finances and getting empowered to take control of your finances is an exciting thing. And it's something that you will enjoy discovering as in that journey as you go along. So that's really important to us. And always make it a point to talk about that before we jump into our topic. But here we are, smart debt consolidation plan for anyone under 50. I want to start talking about debt consolidation, but let's look and see where we are right now. Currently in the US, household debt, we've got $14 trillion, ladies and gentlemen. That's a lot. And it's grown almost 20% over the past 10 years. So they did a apples to apples comparison, 2009 to 2019. It's grown by almost 20% and it's 14 trillion. And that's like consumers, households like you and me, all of our debt added up to one big total. There you have it. So it's a pretty big number. And honestly, that feels kind of overwhelming. It feels overwhelming. It feels like you could never get out of it. But I want you to know that it's not hopeless. We are here to help. And today we are going to discuss the benefits of debt consolidation, if that ends up being the right plan for you. We will talk about what to do before consolidating debt to make sure you check off a couple things off of your list. We will even talk about when it's not the best choice and go over some misconceptions about debt consolidation. Hopefully you will come away with a smart debt consolidation plan that works for you. That is my goal. So, I already told you what we were going to do. Here it is again in black and white. I also have this little visual here. Should I consolidate my debt? This is a flow chart. It's a decision flow chart that you get to have a copy of. You can download your own copy at the end of the session. Take the survey, you get your free copy, and this will help you really personalize based on your situation and give you an idea of what direction might be the one to go in. So before we talk about our first kind of section, I want to do one more poll with you all. And it's 2 questions. You should see that popping up here. After mortgages, so we looked at that big scary number, $14 trillion US debt. So after mortgages, what do you think are the next 3 biggest types of debt? So go ahead and pick 3 of those that you think are the top 3. And then the second question is, what type of debt are you personally looking to pay off or consolidate? By the way, all of the polls are anonymous in the settings when they're created. They're anonymous, so we won't be able to see any of those identifying information. I'll give you guys a few more seconds to get those votes in. Looks like we have people chose for the biggest types of debt. We had people thought personal loans, retail credit cards, auto loans, credit cards, and student loans. Student loans was the most popular choice. And you guys are correct with that one. So the next 3 types of, or the next 3 biggest debt categories are auto, student loan, and credit card. And then, yeah, looks like you guys actually, it pretty accurately reflects, based on what you said, you're looking to consolidate. It kind of reflects what those biggest areas are. So kind of makes sense if you think about it. So before you consolidate your debt, we are here to talk about a smart debt consolidation plan. And I promise we are going to do that. There are definitely some good options. But what's really important is that you understand what you need to consider and what you need to do before you consolidate your debt. If you aren't willing to start here, you will end up in more trouble than you already were before. You may end up with more debt than you had before. And I'm gonna tell you a story. My friends Helena and George, I changed their names, but I want to tell you this story to illustrate the importance of doing these items before you consolidate your debt. Okay, so Helena and George, they have a pretty tight income, so they don't have a ton of extra money after paying for their mortgage and for basic expenses. There are a few things that tend to drain the income a little faster. For example, they love going out to dinner and getting takeout. They have these rose bushes in their yard that they treat like their children, and they spend a ton of money on these rose bushes. And also, they order stuff on Amazon all the time to send to their niece and nephew. So these are the things that kind of drain Helena and George's budget. And to begin with, there wasn't a ton of wiggle room to start. So here's what happened. They end up in debt because they didn't track their spending. So they would just kind of, oh, this is so cute, I have to send it to Henry, or, oh, the rose is dying, it needs this different plant food. And so they would just spend and spend, which is awesome. It's fun. That's, part of enjoying life, is being able to spend money, but they didn't keep track of it. They did not save anything, so they had no money in savings. And then each month, they ended up spending more money than they had. So eventually, over the course of a little while, a couple of years, this ended up in about $10,000 of credit card debt, okay? This couple, they get counsel. You should consolidate your debt. You're paying, this interest rate, it's ripping you off. You should consolidate your debt into a lower interest loan. So this sounds great. They are told they should do a refinance. So using their house, right? Doing a refinance, it costs about $3,500, but it does reduce the rate that they're paying on that debt on the credit card down to 4% instead of the 18% that they were paying. Awesome, right? Great idea. Good choice, Helena and George. But here's 5 years down the road, here's what happens. Because they did not stop and think about creating a spending plan or creating a budget, and yes, it's difficult. Yes, it takes some steps, it takes some work, but because they didn't do that first, they consolidated their debt, they refinanced their house, they extended their mortgage to lower the payment and give them a little more wiggle room in their budget. And what happened was they built that debt back up. So after 5 more years, there was almost another $10,000 in debt. They're in the same position they were before, but now it's even a little bit worse because they've already consolidated once. So I understand you are here to learn about debt consolidation, and yes, we will absolutely talk about that, but creating a spending plan or a budget is really important to start with. So to do that, Alex is going to send you some links in the chat because we have several resources that are completely free from Copper State Credit Union. We have an ebook, we have a downloadable spreadsheet guide that you can use, and we have a webinar. I did one several months ago. And you can take a look at these resources, see if any of them could help you. We will have more webinars on more like specific sections of budgeting going forward, like in the future. So always check back for those. But it's not like you have to do it on your own from scratch. We have resources to help. A couple tips: if you create a budget, stick to it for a month or two, see if it's realistic. Because you don't want to create a budget that's completely unrealistic and you can't stick to, because then you're just setting yourself up for failure, and nobody wants that. Another good tip, if you're in this budget stage, and maybe some of you you've already done that, and that's awesome. But if you are in this phase, a good tip that a friend told me recently, she was setting up her own budget, and she said, it would really help if I had a cushion in my account. If I had a buffer fund that I saved up for, and I put that in my account, just in case the bills are paid on different due dates, like before my paycheck comes in or my income comes in. So that was a really good tip. And then the other tip that I gave in my last webinar on New Year, No Debt, is make sure to find a way to stop creating new debt. So part of that is budgeting and making sure that you know where your dollars are going. And once you run out of money for a particular area, we try not to, continue the spending in that area. A lot of people say, no, if you have debt, you should stop saving money. That is just simply not the case. Getting in the habit of saving money and putting a little bit of money aside will help you when those unexpected things come up, not have to put them on a credit card or any other type of loan. So that's my budgeting spiel. Thanks for sticking with me. My second tip before consolidating is to make sure you consider a do-it-yourself debt payoff. Now, it's funny. I used to think that do-it-yourself, whenever I saw DIY anything, I used to have like a blind panic, like, I can't do that. That's too difficult. But I found that a lot of this stuff, mostly it's me like doing crafts for my kids, but I found that a lot of this stuff isn't as hard as you think. So that's my whole thing to say. The DIY debt payoff is not that hard. You can actually try it on your own at home. You can do it by yourself. You don't have to pay somebody to help you. It's something that you can set up on your own. And we also have resources to share with you to help you through that journey. So we've got a Get Me Out of Debt bundle. It's available on our website. Alex hopefully will send that over in chat, as well as the New Year No Debt webinar that kind of walks you through two different strategies that I go over. One is called the fixed payment method, where you pay the same amount every month towards your debt. And the other one is called the roll-up payment method, where as you pay off one debt, you take that amount and you roll it up to your next debt. So I'm not going to get into it any further, just kind of a heads up that we have resources available, and we want you guys to be aware of those as you go forward. So jumping into debt misconceptions and debt consolidation misconceptions, I want to make sure everybody is comfortable with these terms here. APR, or annual percentage rate, that's going to be a really big one when it comes to debt payoff. It's the amount of money that you pay to the lender or to the credit card company, whoever's giving you the money, for the privilege of borrowing from them. So it's a percentage, and that percentage is how much you pay in interest on top of paying back the amount you borrowed. So a higher APR means you pay more in interest, and it takes longer generally to pay off because that amount, the total amount you're paying, is growing over time. So APR, the APR that you qualify for on any given loan is going to be determined by your relationship with the institution, your credit score. There's other factors, your debt to income, all of that stuff. So just understanding the impact of APR and how, maybe you're here because you are paying a high APR on something, and that's why you want to consolidate. And that's a very valid reason, is to want to pay less in interest. And kind of connected to that is this minimum payment trap, I call it. When it's a high interest loan, you can get into this cycle with minimum payment. So a minimum payment, just a basic definition, it's the lowest amount you're allowed to pay per month on a loan or on money that you've borrowed. It's usually calculated at around 2% of the balance for credit cards. It can vary. It's different amounts for different types of loans. But if you pay only the minimum payment, and we'll just use a credit card for an example, because that's the screenshot I have up on the screen here. If that's all you pay, it will take significantly longer to pay off the debt. If you're even able to pay a little bit more than the minimum every month, this will help you out significantly. So the box that you see on your credit card statement, they didn't used to have to put this, and you guys hopefully can see this on the screen. It's the gray part near the bottom, and it just says, if you make no additional charges and you pay the minimum payment on this amount, and you can see the balance there at the top, it's about $5,000. It will take you 23 years. That's without making any additional charges on the card. And you will end up paying $11,000 in interest. Scary, right? If you bump up that amount and you pay more than the minimum, this 182, you can take that amount, that payoff time, down to 3 years, and look how much you save in interest. So that's the thing to be aware of with the minimum payment. I think it can be easy to be like, oh, the minimum, like that's all I have to pay, and not realize that you're really paying for it over the long term. So there are different types of debt. We're not going to really go into all of these different types, but you may see me refer to them as I go through some of your options for debt consolidation, and I'll kind of define them as we go. But we do have some benefits to consolidating, and maybe some of those benefits are why you guys are here today. And these are general benefits, right? They may not apply to everyone or every situation, but in general, consolidation allows you to take care of your debt in one simple payment. And the things we just talked about on the previous slide, saving on interest, that APR, and kind of going hand in hand with that is shortening the payoff time. That's going to be really key as well. You can improve your credit score. So making those regular payments, believe it or not, that's 35% of your credit score is determined by making those regular on-time payments over time. And that is straight from Russ Lumley, who is our VP of lending. By the way, if you're interested in credit score, we have a Facebook Live coming up in a couple of weeks here with Russ, and we're going to dive into the topic of credit score. So hope you will join us. The information for that is on our website under free webinars. So if you take a look, I have one more bullet point here, and I have it crossed out because a lot of people go into the debt consolidation world and say, I want to consolidate my debt. And they are looking for a lower payment amount. And I get it because there's a lot of expenses, especially right now. There's a lot going on. And it's easy to just think, oh, it'd be so much easier if I could pay less each month. But really, you're extending the life of your debt. You're making it takes longer to pay off, and you're paying more in interest. So really beware of that. Even though it's a very attractive option, I don't think of it as a benefit. I put it on here because a lot of people do think of it as a benefit, but to your financial health overall in the long run, if you can avoid doing that, you'll be able to do these other ones, saving on interest and shortening the payoff time. So that's really what you're looking for here. And here's just a very basic example. Alex, if you could send over, we have a lot of really helpful calculators on our website. And the one that I want Alex to send is our credit card payoff calculator. And this is where I got these numbers from. So if you guys wanted to compare, you'd be able to do that with this online calculator that we have. But basically, if there's a $10,000 debt and you're paying $200 a month, look at the difference in the APR. So 20% APR versus 8%, and that's what you pay annually, like over the course of a year in interest. And the total interest paid for 20% APR is almost $12,000. Look at the difference it makes when you go down to 8%. It's almost $9,000. Oh, it is $9,000 difference. And the length of the payoff is 5 years versus 12 years. So it's really clear to see when you have an exact example here, seeing the difference that reduction in the APR makes. And that's why a lot of people are going for a consolidation loan. So it's definitely a really nice benefit to consider. So that brings us into our options. Now, you may not realize this, but there's more than one type of loan that you can use for debt consolidation. And maybe you do already know that, but I'm going to share the 3 that we think are the best fit for debt consolidation, that are going to help you out financially, hopefully, if this is the right option for you. So number 1, credit card. Are you shocked that I'm saying that? Because credit card debt can sometimes be the problem, right? Here's the deal. I'm going to talk about each of these options. I have 3 debt consolidation options. I'm going to give you what there is to love about it, what there is to think about it, like maybe not, and then what you need in order to get it. And then down at the very bottom, I will also have, in case you want to jot these down, the national average APR. So that's how it's structured for the next couple of minutes. And let me just jump in. So credit card as debt consolidation, what does that mean? Well, basically, you would transfer your balance on whatever other loan you have over to a credit card designed for balance transfers if you can get qualified for a 0% promo period. Now, the credit card will give you 0% interest, right? So that APR, instead of being 22, it would go down to 0. That's huge. That's clearly going to be what we love about this option, the 0%. 0% is great. And especially if the balance transfer fee is low, I would say about 3%. You don't want to pay, 3% is low, and you probably don't want to pay, some of them are about 5%. So try to find one that's 3% of a balance transfer fee. And then that's just the amount you pay to move that money over. It's 3% of whatever you transfer. And the 0%, I want to point out that you want to make sure you are getting that 0% for at least 12 months. 15 or 18 months is a good deal. That's what I'd go for. Try to find that 15 months, because we talked about what we love about it, right? The 0%. But here's what to think about. This is not a good idea if you're going to keep making purchases on the card. This is a good idea if you have this amount and you really want to get rid of it and you just need a break from the interest to really hit it hard and get it paid off. If that's what you're going to do, this could be a good option. So you treat this new card as a non-purchase card. You want to make sure you find one with no annual fee. Like some of them will charge you annually. So try to find one that doesn't have an annual fee. And another thing to think about, like just be watchful, is cards that have deferred interest. These are the scary ones, because these are cards that give you 0%, but if you don't pay the full balance off, all that interest that's built up over that promo period gets put on the loan on day 1 after that promo period expires. So be aware of that. And we do have an option. Maybe if we have time at the end, I'll share, but you can always go to our website and look at our Visa Platinum option if you're interested in that. I believe that one is a 15-month. So that's one option, credit card balance transfer. Number 2, personal loan. Oh, you know what? I forgot to talk about how to get a credit card balance transfer. Let me hop back here for a moment. So to get it, it's important to go back, because I want to mention, to get one of these balance transfer credit cards with 0% for 12 or 15 or 18 months, you're going to have probably at least 690 as a credit score. So if you don't have that, take 6 months, take a year, and try one of the debt payoff methods from the webinar or from the bundle that Alex sent over a few minutes ago. You can boost your score 30 or 40 points and get a better rate, or be able to qualify for one of these cards. Possibly, no guarantees, but it's a good way to go if you're not there credit score wise. But the other thing to be aware of to get one of these is that you can't transfer from, for example, an American Express credit card like that balance, to another American Express. So you have to change credit card providers. That may matter to some people. And this is a card that you're probably going to want to keep after the debt's paid off. Like, you don't want to close it. And that's because of credit score reasons as well. Because if you pay it off, that's like a super boost to your credit score. Like, that's awesome that you did that. Your credit score is like, wow, I'm so impressed. So if you close that card after the fact, like you completely close down the account, you may lose some of that boost that you got. So something to be aware of. Now we are really moving on. Option number 2, debt consolidation for personal loan. What I love about this one is that you can definitely find a fixed rate personal loan with a set term, like closed end. So this means the rate is not going to go up and down. It's going to be the same rate. You get locked in and there it is. You don't have to worry about it changing like a credit card rate can. And a set term, you have 7 years to pay this off and that's it, or whatever the case may be. Other good things about a personal loan is it could reduce your interest rate if you have a really high interest loan. It puts it into one simple payment. All of the things, there are a lot of good things about it. To get it, you want to have a credit score of at least 620. And really important on this one is if you have a relationship with your financial institution, that's going to help you. If they know you, if you've been banking, like for example, with us, if you've been banking with us for a while, or, you have a checking account, you have a debit card, you've got all the things, that's going to help you in the personal loan arena. Again, I'm not a loan analyst, so don't quote me, but just some tips here, just some general advice. What to think about when it comes to a personal loan is that lower credit scores may not qualify at all, or you may qualify, but it's going to be a super high rate, so it's not really worth it, right? The other thing to consider, let's just say you move all your debt from a credit card to a personal loan. What does that do for your credit card? Oh, well, it's free to be used again. And there's that danger of running up that balance if you don't have a spending plan in place. So that's something to think about as well. I want to pop up here the national average APR. It's definitely lower than the credit card one. I think the credit card one was like 16. So definitely worth thinking about for a personal loan. Third big option for debt consolidation is a home equity loan. What I love about this one is most of them are going to be closed end. So it's just one fixed amount that you borrow. It's not like you borrow, pay it back, borrow, pay it back. Closed end, it's a fixed rate loan. So you get one rate locked in, and it is secured by your home, right? So this is, some people might call it a second mortgage, but it is going to be a lower rate than the other two options because this is the only debt consolidation option that we talked about today that is secured, which means there's, collateral, there's something there to secure the loan. And I'll go ahead and pop up the rate down here at the bottom. So you can see, if you're comparing just by rates, the average on this one's definitely the lowest. It's 4 percentage points lower than the personal. But again, for the think about it side of things, if you can't pay, your home is the collateral. Your home is what you're putting up for grabs. That's yikes, right? You want to be really careful. You want to make sure you have a spending plan in place, you have a budget in place, and you're confident about that decision of using your home as collateral. Because the rate is awesome, but there's definitely things to think about for this one as well. In order to get a home equity loan, you need a house or a property of some kind, some equity in it. So you can't have, you have to have some equity or some part of it that you own that you can borrow against. and about 620 and up credit score for this one. So for all of these, we do have options at Copper State Credit Union, and check them out. Check out our website if you are interested. So I want to talk about protecting yourself. So if you're really, you're going to go for it, you're going to consolidate your debt, I want to make sure you're protecting yourself from a couple of things. Subprime lenders. These are people who will give a loan to someone with no credit or very, very poor credit. Be careful, because they are really, really hitting you with rates and fees to make up for that risk that they're taking. So really would advise against going with a subprime lender for something like this, and be wary of debt settlement plans. They claim that they'll reduce your debt amount. They say, oh, we'll talk to your creditors and we'll get them to forgive your debt, or whatever the case may be. But you will pay high fees again. And what's even worse, this will stay on your credit report as unpaid. So definitely don't want to go down the route of a debt settlement plan if you can help it. Other things to protect yourself from are any lenders that charge a fee for a debt consolidation loan. Of course, there's going to be interest, the cost of doing business, right? But there shouldn't really be a fee to get a loan of that type. And I mentioned before to be wary of any deferred interest credit cards, any that penalize you if you don't have the full amount paid off within the promo period. So those are some things to definitely be aware of. And now the fun part, now that we've kind of talked about everything, I want to talk about your plan. So your plan is something specific to you, right? There's definitely a lot of things that we talked about here that could be your specific plan. And no two people have the same financial situation. No two people are exactly the same in their needs and wants and goals. So we created this presentation and then this resource for you with this in mind, so that you could take a look at it and determine your path, your best path forward for yourself to hopefully finding that financial freedom. So make sure that you grab that free download. It'll be in a few different places on the Zoom exit page when we're done. It will be in an email, and then hopefully, maybe with the recording, it'll be sent again. So one way or the other, hopefully you guys get a hold of that, because it'll help you walk through your own specific situation. And then I don't want to leave without talking about one of these resources we have. GreenPath is a partner that we have, and they offer free resources, education, but also free debt counseling and credit counseling. This is not the same thing as the debt settlement plan that I talked about earlier. This is an initial call where they do an assessment with you, and that part is free. And then if you move along, and there's a few other options that they have where they kind of help you manage your debt. Those, not every single thing that they offer is free, but that initial phone call definitely is, and several other things are. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and this feels like, even with all the resources that we have, it still feels, difficult to handle on your own, give them a call. And Alex can send over, I think it's just copperstatecu.org/greenpath. But Alex can send over that link if you're interested in checking that out, because they're really awesome. And we've been partnering with them for quite a while. So I forgot, I was so into, talking about debt consolidation. I forgot to remind you all to be asking questions, but now is the time. What questions do we have about the content today, whether it's about budgeting, about debt consolidation, anything we've talked about today. I am here to answer your questions and happy to get those from you all. Feel free to send those over my way. I'm going to hang out here for a little bit just to take questions, and I'll give you a moment to type those in if you're thinking about it. I'm just pulling up this information here at the end for our final slide to make sure that you guys know where to get more information and where to get that flow chart. Please take the survey as well. It really helps us to improve what we're doing and find new ways to serve our members because that's why we're here. So take a look at that info. I am keeping an eye on the Q&A, but it looks like we don't have any questions as of right now. Just going to take that to mean that you guys are good. You've got it all figured out. Hang out for one more minute here. Go ahead and send in those questions if you have them. And if you don't have any questions, you can feel free to hop off this evening. I do appreciate you being with us tonight. It is always a pleasure to be talking financial wellness with our Copper State Credit Union members. So thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you next time.